Hey, you kids, get off my lawn. Unless you're mowing it, let's see your mobile phone for initiative. Do as I say. What's up, a frowny face? Go out and play. Just like your parents did. Just like your parents did. As if your parents did.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to First Gen Gamers. It has been a spell. I am co-host number one, Jed, and co-host number two is no longer Mike. I wish Mike the best. The show wasn't fitting into his personal life anymore, and so he had to part ways with the podcast. But I love this podcast. I love the idea of it, and I want to carry it forward. So I went on an exhaustive co-host search of two people. And on the second try, I found an excellent brand new co-host. So without any further ado, I would like to give her the opportunity to introduce herself to the listeners. Ashley, please take it away.
Wow, you're gassing me up. What my name is Ashley. I am obviously a gamer, but I also am a podcast host. So where did I see this post? Facebook? Yeah, been playing video games since I could hold a Sega Genesis in my little tiny hands. And yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So we're kicking off a new era. This is kind of the soft reboot, so to speak, and we'll be maintaining a much better schedule going forth. And so it's Jed and Ashley from here on forth. And without any further ado, Ashley, what are we talking about today?
Yes. So one of the topics that I came up with was bad games we love and good games we hate.
This is going to be a fun one. It is. We're starting you off with hot takes. Sure to make every gamer really happy because gamers are well known for being even-tempered and having open minds.
I have very strong opinions about video games, so I'm ready.
All right. So without any further ado, we're starting off with the second generation as always. That's your Atari 2600, Intellivision, ColecoVision, Vectrex, the Odyssey 2, I guess. I don't know anyone who has an Odyssey 2, but I've never even seen one. But Ashley, what is your pick for a game that people hate that you love for the second gen?
Pac-Man for the Atari 2600.
Oh, you coming out swinging.
Well, I love it. But it is a bad game. Let's be serious.
It is.
The graphics are atrocious, and the gameplay, even though they're trying really hard to bring an arcade experience home, is not great. The Pac-Man doesn't move depending on the way you're facing. The ghosts flicker and glitch. But I love it. It's fun. It's fun to play. You can't go wrong with Pac-Man ever, really.
Right. I had the game. I remember bringing it home and being disappointed in what it was, but at the same time, it's Pac-Man. Like, you could only be so disappointed with with a version of Pac-Man.
Yeah, I agree.
So my pick for the generation is actually a Pac-Man clone called Lock and Chase. It's not like there were bad reviews of it per se, because you really couldn't find reviews back in those days. There wasn't gaming magazines, there wasn't IGN or G4 or anything. But this game's legacy is pretty much viewed as a Pac-Man clone. And it is a little bit more than that. It has another element to it, because the game is, rather than being some monster or creature or whatever, you're a criminal who's on the run from the cops. And so the new mechanism in it is, rather than having a power up that you consume to beat the bad guys, you have the ability in the maze to close doors. And there's only like 2 or 3 that you can have active at any given time. So you can close the door behind you, and that will force the enemies to have to circle back around and try and find a new way to get you. So rather than being an offensive mechanic, it's a defensive mechanic. And I like it. I think it's a clever twist on the Pac-Man formula.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've actually never heard of that game. I feel like if I were to try it, I would either love that like completely or I would hate it because I would somehow figure out a way to not be able to use it in my favor.
I will admit there's a learning curve to it because Pac-Man is all, I mean, you have to run, but there is an offensive side to it, whereas Lock and Chase is never offensive. So yeah, there is that learning curve of how do I use it best to my advantage? Where is the best place to close a door? But I love it. I think it's fun, and I think it's a lot better. Just because a game is a clone of another game doesn't automatically make it bad, and I think that's why I'm more defensive of it. Like there's only so many original ideas in gaming. So
Is that the only reason why people tend to not like the game?
Yeah, honestly, it's just considered a derivative clone. And how many games are derivative clones of something else and are still great? I mean, Saints Row is a GTA clone. Tomb Raider or Uncharted is a Tomb Raider clone. Like, there are plenty of games that are excellent that are just like something else.
Yeah, and I don't even look at them like that because I feel like you have that in entertainment, period. Songs, movies, video games. There's really, I feel like, no such thing for the most part as an original idea anymore. And that's okay as long as it's unique, even though it's drawing from inspiration from something else.
Right. I just watched last night, I watched The Beekeeper. It's basically John Wick, except incredibly stupid. Like, it takes away all of the style, all of the neo-noir element, and it just goes, you want ass kicking? Here's an hour 45 of ass kicking. The end. Turn your brain off and go. And it's fun. It's better than John Wick as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, John Wick like always reminds me of Old Boy. So, I don't know. There's room for great things that are similar to others.
So on the other side of the coin, the game that is popular that you don't like for second gen, what do you have?
So I actually like this game, but I feel like this game has throughout this list, there are some that I picked that I like that are good that just get hate in general. And then there are some that I dislike that people consider to be a good game. This is one that I happen to like that has a lot of hate, I think, to this day, and that is Space Invaders.
Really?
Yeah, it's really hard. And a lot of people, I'd say probably people that are more casual gamers find the gameplay to be redundant. I mean, it is, but that's the nature of the game.
Right. The original arcade game was 78, I think. Late 70s. It's a single screen game. It's a single screen game. Like, of course it's going to be redundant.
One of the most common complaints that I found, and I went like deep into Reddit, was a lot of people had complaints about the sound. But again, this is like a very basic game. I'm not sure if they're expecting like a Hans Zimmer soundtrack or what, but this game does get a lot of flack, which I think is pretty funny.
Right. And it was, for the consoles that it was ported to, I mean, bleeps and bloops. That's what you're going to get. You're not going to get this rich diorama of sound with Space Invaders. You move right and left, you shoot, enemies blow up. Not complicated.
Yeah. No, but it is hard.
Yes.
It is hard.
It's hard, but it is fun. I do enjoy Space Invaders. And if for people who don't, like, what's wrong with you? Are you like 7?
Probably.
Sorry, it's not Fortnite, people. So my pick, this one will probably be controversial for Atari lovers. Adventure. It's not that I don't respect adventure. Without adventure, we don't have Legend of Zelda. We don't have Ultima. We don't have Dragon Warrior. We don't have Final Fantasy. We don't have God of War. The DNA of adventure can be found in every RPG, action RPG, adventure game from the day that it was released to now and carrying forward. I fully admit that.
So is this a game that you dislike that you think is a good game?
Yes. No, this is a game that is popular that I don't like.
I quit.
You quit already? Wow.
No, I'm kidding. All right, go
Good
ahead.
night, everybody. So I respect adventure, but I dare anyone to go back and play it that hasn't played it before. I dare you to go back and play it and tell me that this is not one of the most frustratingly obtuse designed games that you've ever experienced. Try and beat it without a walkthrough. I dare you.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the game isn't good. I feel like a lot of these older games, though, are, by their very nature, just a lot harder than more current games.
Oh, yeah. And that
doesn't make them bad.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's bad. It is a product of its time. It is a game where it was made obtuse because there wasn't a game like it. I don't know that they knew how to do it any other way. I don't know that the 2600 was capable of doing anything better. But just by nature of its design, going back and playing it now, I can't. I cannot for the life of me get into the game where I am just a square that is roaming around a maze and I have to avoid that thing that is supposed to be a dragon but looks more like a bear duck. Like I said, I respect the hell out of it. I acknowledge its place in history, but that doesn't mean I ever want to see it again. I will never play it on the Atari 50 compilation, ever.
All right, I respect that answer. I have a similar sentiment with GoldenEye. This isn't in my list, but I just revisited that game and I love it. And I think it's a great game. But I was like, wow, I don't know how I ever played this. I think it's just because I'm coddled now with newer graphics.
I have to zip my lip for a reason.
Do you not like GoldenEye? You can say it. You might get stalked and like killed for it because it has like such a crazy cult following, but you can say it.
I will be spoiling something for later in the list.
Oh, okay. Never mind. All right. Moving on.
Which will be getting me stalked and killed. So
I can't believe you picked that as wow. You know what? That's fine. I quit again.
Good night, everybody. We'll come to that in a little bit, and I will have my reasons. But moving on, third generation, the NES.
I'm really excited.
The NES, the Sega Master System, Atari 7800, the game that people hate that you love, Ashley.
Friday the 13th. I couldn't even let you finish. People hate that game. No, you know that, right?
High five.
Oh, did you pick the same game?
Yes.
I love it.
Oh my God. So defend it. I want to hear your side of it so that I can add in. This is beautiful.
I obviously have a lot of critiques to it, but I think the critiques are like good things. I have never been able to beat the game. This game is probably one of the hardest games I've ever played, and I have had rage fits over this game. But I think it's really good, and it's like my lack of skill and lack of understanding. So I think my favorite part is the camp counselor, specifically Debbie. She's the worst. Like, I hate Debbie. Why does she even exist? I don't get it. And it's like you have like Chrissy, who's really good, but she can't row, and rowing is important. And the Debbie's obviously just the weakest. I'm not even going to bother to like speak about her. And yeah, the gameplay is really hard. It's really confusing, but I feel like it was a culturally significant game. I mean, you're fighting a singular roaming boss that's way too hard to fight. So you have to do a bunch of other shit so you don't die, but you don't really like know what that other... Oh, I forget. Is this okay if I swear on this podcast? I just asked you that for okay. Thank God.
Yeah.
But the soundtrack was great. But yeah, a lot of people think it was one of the worst games of all time. Game Informer, interestingly, listed the game as one of the most difficult horror games of all time. And I'm inclined to agree, but I don't think that makes it a bad game. I love that game.
I love it too. I admit its flaws. It has, it is bizarre. It takes some liberties with the Friday the 13th license, lighting fires and fireplaces to keep Jason away. Where did that come from? Zombies. What? One criticism of the game that a lot of people make that drives me nuts is the map. People go, oh, if you're down at the bottom and you press left, you go left. But if you're at the top of the map and you press left, you go right. How does that work? Why does that not make sense? Left is clockwise, right is counterclockwise. It's not that hard. I figured that shit out, and I was like 10 when the game came out. It's not difficult.
I've never heard that complaint, and that's dumb.
It comes up a lot. I know Angry Video Game Nerd made that complaint. I've seen a couple of other YouTubers make that complaint. It's just, I don't understand. I think it's a very overblown complaint.
Are they younger gamers?
No, well, it's a mix. Some younger gamers, some older.
I feel like unless you were forced to play these games like we were, because it's just where games were at the time, you just don't understand how good these games were. So if you're playing these games and you weren't a kid when these games came out, you're probably gonna be like, this game sucks.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being biased, but
well, of course we're being biased. But that's the fun of this. I think for me, the biggest draw of the game, though, was just I was a horror movie nerd. I still am. And you get to play it. You get to fight Jason Voorhees. Yeah, he's dressed in purple. He looks like Barney the Dinosaur cosplay. I don't care. I'm fighting Jason. It's awesome.
I would rather play Friday the 13th than Dead by Daylight, which is a newer game where literally the premise of I'm going to get so much hate for this. Oh, you have to fix this, whatever it is, engine or a motor so that you can power this up and run away from this. It's the same thing every time. Mm-hmm. It's so boring, but people love it. I'd rather play Friday the 13th.
I'm with you there. All right. So let's go to the other side of the coin again. The popular game that you don't like. Ashley, what do we have? Okay. I will go first. I know I'm going to get hate for this one. A friend of mine is Scott is really going to be angry about this one. Battletoads.
Okay, I used to work at GameStop, so I'm with you on that because the amount of phone calls that I got, do you have Battletoads? Fuck that game. Just simply based on the harassment I got with the phone calls asking about Battletoads.
Fair.
So I'm with you.
So everything I said about the adventure, where the limitations of the time and the limitations of the system sort of necessitated its design. By the time Battletoads came out, it was, I want to say it came out in 1990, 89, 90. By then, we were moving past the arcade style of design where the difficulty was ramped up specifically to get kids to pump more quarters into a machine. This was made for home. This wasn't made for arcade. And yet it's still got that arcade mentality of let's be as brutal and unfair as possible. That's not fun. That stupid second level with the motorbike can go fuck itself right into the sea. There is no reason for that thing to be moving that fast and have that kind of reaction time necessary. Why is there 3 or 4 different kind of levels? There's beat 'em up, and there's side scrolling, and there's vehicles. It never feels like one cohesive game. It feels like each level is its own kind of mini game. Nothing about the game comes together for me. I do not understand why this game gets so much love.
Yeah, so mine's going to be really controversial, but I picked Metroid.
Oh! Okay, I have some ideas of what reasons you might be picking it, but of course I want to hear your explanation here.
The game is impossible. There's no map. You start with like 30 energy. The enemies are really hard to hit and they take forever to kill. I feel like I am a stormtrooper trying to hit a target in this game. It's just not possible. Every shot misses. They don't drop health or missiles or anything that you need. It's just not common. People will say that the drops are more, they're not. And the corridors look all the same. They're super hard to navigate. The game is just impossible. It's good, but it's impossible. Like, not in a fun way.
I can't argue any of those. I love the atmosphere of Metroid, but I can't argue any of those problems. Like, a map would cure so many. It still wouldn't make the game easy, but a map alone would make that game so much more tolerable.
It's impossible. It's a great game. I have learned to avoid games that make me so mad I might break a controller. And that is one of those games where I avoid it because I don't want to ruin everything around me getting angry at it. So I respect it, but I don't understand why people are so obsessed with it. I feel like people are so obsessed with it because they think it's cool to be obsessed with it.
I can see that. I also think that game really suffers from first out the door. I don't know how to put it. It is the first game in a series that is beloved, and future games got things right that it didn't. Like Super Metroid had a map. It had more definable corridors. Metroid Prime series was really excellent. Zelda is much the same way in that the first game is so important to the development of the series going forward. But if you go back and play it, it is so archaic and lacking in things that seem like second nature. It's difficult to play. Metroid especially is, if you don't play a patched ROM of that, you are just begging for a headache.
And I never have. So I was crying and screaming playing that game. And again, good. Just, I think we need to acknowledge shortcomings of games. We can be fans of games, but also say this game is severely lacking here, here, and here.
Yep.
And that game is, I'd love to see a bunch of Gen Z gamers play this game with no help. Just go into the game with absolutely no background at all and see how that goes.
Okay.
Live stream it. Let's watch.
I love that idea. I would imagine that would just be a lot of rage.
Exactly my point.
Here, Gen Zers, you suffer. Suffer like we did.
Seriously, it could be used as like a torture mechanism by the CIA or the FBI. I'm just saying.
Not a bad idea.
Strong opinions.
Yeah. A lot better than just blaring Guns N' Roses over a PA, because I'll just sit there and be like, oh, cool.
Wait, do they do that? I love Guns N' Roses.
There was, for a short period of time down in Guantanamo, I think it got out that they were blaring certain music over and over and over again. So it was all heavy metal. It was like Guns N' Roses and Van Halen and
all amazing bands. I have ADHD, so I listen to one song 100 times in a row anyway. So to me, that just makes sense.
Right. You're like, oh, cool. I can't drive 55 again. Nice.
Oh, if it's Sammy Hagar, Van Halen, I'm out. I don't want to listen to that. David Lee Roth all the way.
I'm with you on that for Van Halen.
Get inside.
The band stopped at 1984.
Yeah. All right. So my bad game. I'm really excited for 4th gen. Oh, I'll let you.
No.
What's in the?
By all means, 4th gen. Knock it out. What do we got?
I don't care what anybody says. I'll die on this hill. I love this game. Shaq Fu. I love it. I love it.
I did not.
I love everything about it. I love everything about it. It's just such a weird, campy game. The graphics are trash. The sound and the music is terrible, but I love it. It's just fun. And I appreciate I have another weird game in here in a later generation that is also like not really great, but I just love it because it's so bizarre.
That's what this whole episode is about. We're, the bad games that we love there's going to be some wild ones. I did not see Shaq Fu coming.
I love that game.
Have you played the remaster?
No, I just played it on SNES.
Because they did a reboot of it, I think, last gen. And it got precisely the same good reaction that the original did.
I don't know if I would like it rebooted. I'd have to try it.
I feel like it was almost done kind of, I don't want to say it was done just for the memes, but it was done with a wink and a nod, knowing what the game's legacy was. So I kind of feel like, just from reading reviews of it, I haven't played it, but from reading reviews of it, it seems like they were kind of steering into the skid, which I don't know that was the smartest thing to do, but
I love that though. I love me some really weird video games that are absolute trash that people think are weird. First game that comes to mind that's like newer, and it's not a bad game. I think it did well critically, but the game is absolutely insane. Beautiful Katamari. You are this like print, and you just have to go to Earth and like roll things up, and you can roll up whale. It makes absolutely no sense. It's completely unhinged, but I love that game. I could play that game for hours and hours. And it's not great, but it's fun.
I love the Katamari games. I have 3 or 4 of them. The Katamari games are so near and dear to my heart just for their sheer insanity.
And that's why I love Shaq Fu. Because it's bananas.
Fair enough. I've never played it. I can't say one way or the other.
You got to try it. It's an experience. It is an experience to be had. And I'll just leave it at that.
I may or may not have it on an emulated device. Legally, I am saying I do not. Wink, wink.
We all have emulators. Come on. Yeah, you got to try it. Got to try it and then update us on how you like it, because you will like it, maybe, hopefully.
I will do that between this and the next episode. Hand to God.
Awesome.
All right. So the game I'm defending, it isn't nearly as hated. It doesn't nearly have the same reputation that Shaq Fu does, but it did get critically hurt a lot. That was Sword of Vermilion for the Genesis. The reason that it reviewed poorly is that for a role-playing game, rather than sticking with one idea, it went all over the place. So your world traversal was done in first-person view. Your regular battles, your random generated battles, were done kind of in a third-person single-screen battlefield that you were free to roam around. And then the boss battles were done side-scrolling like Zelda 2. So it was taking a lot of different styles and mashing them together, and it did not click with a lot of people. But that was the era for me where I was just an RPG guzzling machine. If it was an RPG, I bought it and I played it. And I know that the game is jumbled and is probably trying to do too many things at once, but I like how it does a bunch of different things. It feels different. It doesn't feel just like the standard, here's 4 people roaming around a map, random battle, more roaming around a map, battle. It has a sense of identity, even if that identity is confused.
I'm going to keep it going with the RPGs. This might be my most controversial one on my list. Just know that I do think this is a good game and I've played it a bunch, but I have some critiques. I'm going to get dragged for this. I probably should have went lighter with my first episode here, but Chrono Trigger.
Ooh.
I love it. Obviously, it's the first entry in the Chrono series, but to me, there is a lot of what feels like really aimless and purposeless and unguided wandering throughout the game. And again, I love the game. I'm just, this is just how I feel. There's no contextual direction. You're just here. You're in this random world. You can just wander around. You don't have any idea what's going on until you happen to stumble across an NPC that gives you some kind of breadcrumb as to what you need to do to continue and perpetuate the game. And then magic is either like super OP or absolute trash. And there's like no in between. But a phenomenal game nonetheless.
I've never heard anyone say anything critical about Chrono Trigger, so it's relieving to hear this.
Oh, God.
No, it's relieving. I like it. I've never played it. I was a Genesis kid.
What?
I was a Genesis kid.
What?
Yeah. So, and I abandoned the 16-bit generation pretty much as soon as the Saturn came out. That was a real good boat to jump on. So yeah, I never got around to playing it. My Super Nintendo experience is kind of small.
I feel like if you are going to be a gamer, you got to play at least 10 minutes of it. Well, 10 minutes is not enough time because you're not going to be able to figure out what's going on.
Right.
But you have to try. That's one of the games where I feel like I have a book, 100 video games you must play before you die. I'm pretty sure it's in there. It might not be. I might be making this up. Is it 101 video games you must play before you die? Anyway, getting off track, but you have to try it.
One of these
you
days.
have to.
One of these
So
days.
never.
No, the backlog is just so monstrous. It's like I've been avoiding. I beat a game. I tend to play like one story heavy game at a time, and then a couple of drop in games. I can drop into Hades, for instance, and play it for an hour and drop back out, or a sports game or something. But I tend to play one story focused game at a time. I just finished one, and I've been delaying starting another one just because.
Two things. Sports games. Come on.
On occasion.
What's the game that you just played?
What did I just finish? Spirit of the North.
Huh. I haven't played that.
Have you played Journey?
No.
Flower?
Heard of it.
It's kind of like those. It's a chill game.
Yeah.
You're a fox and you're going through the cold north, and there's no dialogue, there's no cutscenes. You're trying to restore these ghostly shamans and cure the land of a plague that's hurting it. There's no combat. It's just exploration and puzzle solving.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, I promise someday I will get to Chrono Trigger. I just have to figure out what I'm playing next.
It's actually crazy to me that you haven't played that game.
I never had a Super Nintendo. Never had access to it. But one game I did have access to for Super Nintendo is the game that that is beloved, that I am going to roast. Star Fox.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I'm sorry. That game is butt fucking ugly, and it runs at 60 frames a minute. Playing that game is excruciating. Like I love the attempt of what they're doing, but it was done much better on Sega CD with Sylpheed. It's the speed and the look of the game that just bug me. I just cannot deal with the choppiness and the geometry lesson design of everything. It does not click with me at all. I know it's a historic game. I know, even though Star Fox the franchise has kind of been abused over the years, it's still a respected Nintendo franchise. It does not work for me. Not that one, at any rate.
I don't have anything to say to you right now. I am disgusted.
Oh,
my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined.
I'm sorry. You're not going to like the game that I defend in the next generation, then.
I swear I will fight you. All right. I cheated. Hear me out. I picked 2 for bad for this one because I couldn't pick one or the other. And I feel like you're going to agree with both choices. I feel like everybody. If there's a single person out there that disagrees, I don't have words for them. So I picked Superman 64 and Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. I hate it, but some people like them, and I don't know why. I think that they're both terrible games. They both play horribly. Particularly Superman 64, the camera doesn't work. The movement doesn't make any sense. The graphics are horrendous. But it has a strong fan base. How does Superman not know how to fly? And why is the entire premise of the game to fly through like a million rings with not enough time? I wish that game never happened, to be honest.
Have you heard the backstory of why that was designed that way?
No.
Oh boy. So to keep it short from not derailing too far, when the developers Titus got the license to the game, they had this much bigger game in mind, a more open world game, and you were going to get to use all of Superman's powers: the laser vision, the cold breath, the super strength, the bulletproof, all of it. And DC Comics came in and said, for some inexplicable reason, we don't want you to use any of the powers and no violence. I'm not shitting.
And yet all of their movies are rated R today, so that makes a lot of sense.
Right. So they were stuck with they were stuck with Superman, who can't do any of his super things. And so they go, what do we do? Okay, well, we put him in a virtual reality simulation where he's got to fly through rings and pick up cars and throw them. But yeah.
It makes sense. I'm not a DC person by any means. I'm definitely more Marvel. And this might be like a hot take. I'm going to talk about a movie, but judging by the fact that they decided to make the new Joker like kind of a musical, I guess I'm just never going to understand any of the decisions that DC makes ever.
Neither am I.
Like casting Ben Affleck as Batman. Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting backstory that I didn't know about, and it somehow makes me even more angry.
Yeah. It doesn't improve the game at all. I will say, at least it provides context to why the game is designed the way it is. It doesn't make it any less shitty.
They should have just not made the game, to be honest. Like, they should have just not made the game.
Yeah.
Honestly.
What about the Power Rangers game?
All of the same complaints. The gameplay doesn't make any sense at all. It's just an atrocious game. I think I only played that game for like 10 minutes. Superman I tried for like a couple days. But yeah, the gameplay is terrible. The soundtrack is terrible. It doesn't make any sense. But people, I feel like, love both Superman 64 and Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. Like, they love them. I don't know why. These are probably the same people that, I don't know, complain about Friday the 13th.
Very possibly. So the popular game that I'll be roasting for the 5th gen, we've kind of already alluded to it earlier. It's GoldenEye. Just know that there were other games that I could have picked on this list for this one that would have gotten me in similar trouble. This was a generation where I really did not like a lot of the popular games. I wasn't trying to be contrarian. It was just the way that I fell that generation. But I understand GoldenEye's position. My issue with it, one, personally, watch the way that when people move side to side and such, I do get motion sickness from that one. I don't get motion sickness from Doom or Quake or any other first-person game of the era, but for some reason, GoldenEye made me nauseous. So
I get it.
So playing it by itself was a near impossibility for me. Beyond that, though, my hot take about this game is that this game would be forgotten if it was a PC game instead of a Nintendo 64. This game was popular because it was on it was a first-person shooter that you could play locally, split screen, with 4 players right out of the gate on the console. You didn't need to have a LAN party. You didn't need to hook up 4 TVs. It was right there. You plug it in. You got 4 controllers ready to go. You put this on a PC instead, and it gets buried by Doom and Quake and Unreal and Duke Nukem.
I don't know.
It gets forgotten.
It's different. It's different than those games. I feel like there would have been space for it. No? I feel like there would have been space for it. You might be right.
I don't think so. I think it's not that there's nothing, with the exception of Oddjob, there's nothing badly designed about the game. I just don't think it does anything to stand out against those. I think the platform is what made it stand out more than the game itself. Again, could be
Guess that's fair.
could be a hot take. On the other side, are the bad game we're defending for the 5th gen. What do you got?
No, I just did my bad game. My good game.
What was the other one? Was
Superman 64 and Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue are both absolute trash games that people like for some reason. I hate them. But I have a different game for my good game that I feel like everybody hates. Not
okay.
everybody.
So I did that backwards.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. So let me get the game that the bad game that I'm defending out of the way, and then we'll get to yours, and then we'll get back on track because we've gotten all messed up. That was my fault. The games that I'm going to be defending, this was a hard generation for me to find something. I really didn't. There wasn't a lot of bad games that I really loved. The closest that I can come, it is a sports game. Were the 2 games made for wrestling promotion ECW. I'm a wrestling fan, and in the 90s, wrestling was huge. The ECW games were reskins of the WWE's games, Attitude and Warzone. I freely admit that. They used an engine that was klutzy, that was not exactly visually appealing, but they were the only opportunity to play as ECW. I loved ECW. It was a 90s thing. They were extreme. They were violence and blood and sex, and they were the 90s in sports form. And I know that they aren't the most elegantly playing games, and going back to them is brutal, but at the time they scratched that 90s extreme edgelord itch that I had.
When did Celebrity Deathmatch come out? Was that PlayStation 1?
Oh, that might have. Yeah, I think that was in the death throes of the PlayStation 1, like
oh man,
like 2000, 2001, somewhere around there.
That was making me think of Celebrity Deathmatch. What a game.
Love that show.
So funny.
Never played the game, but the show was hilarious.
Both. So the good game I picked is not a game I hate. It's a Zelda game. It's my favorite Zelda game, but I feel like people don't like it. I'll get into why for many of the game, just because of the gameplay, but I also feel like it got overshadowed by Ocarina of Time. And I'm going to be honest, I think that game is overrated. I love it. I still own it on my N64. What did it come out on? The 3DS? I replayed it on, was it the 3DS? I think it was the 3DS.
Yeah.
Replayed it on, I love Ocarina of Time. But I will die on this hill. Majora's Mask is, in my opinion, the best Zelda game ever. I don't care. I know everybody disagrees, but I love it. I love it. And I feel like it's really challenging. You do all of these things in the game, and then you play a song and you rewind time back. So a lot of people feel like everything you did is for naught, yada, yada. It's complicated, but I love everything about that game. I love the storyline. I love having to wear all these different masks that do all these different things. The game creeped me out when I was a kid. I love the music and I love everything about that game. And I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill.
I have not played Majora's Mask. I didn't have an N64.
What?
I didn't have an N64.
Oh my God. I have no words for you.
I was not a Nintendo guy in the 90s. Sorry. But I will defend, even as an outsider, I will defend Majora's Mask over Ocarina of Time for the simple fact that I respect Zelda more when it is taking bold swings. When it sticks to the formula of here's a world, you have to get the 8 pieces of the Triforce and then go kill Ganon. Oh, that's been done over and over.
Wait, so please tell me you don't share the same sentiment with Wind Waker because they dare to do something different. That means you have to spend 20 hours of your life sailing around.
Mixed feelings on Wind Waker.
Okay, that's fine. Continue. Sorry.
But Majora's Mask broke away from formula. I like the fact that Ganon isn't the bad guy. I like the fact that it isn't Save Hyrule. I like the fact that it is just something different. And yeah, Zelda fans, I'm not going to say every Zelda fan because I don't like absolutes in all-inclusive statements, but there is a large number of Zelda fans who get pissy whenever the formula is deviated from. Zelda 2 gets trashed constantly. God forbid they tried something different. Majora's Mask, Spirit Tracks, Four Swords Adventures. God forbid they try something different. Because when they do the same thing over and over, you know what you get? You get Skyward Sword. You get a game that is so linear and so basic and hits the beats. Like, it hits the beats at such a regular interval. They're like a drummer for the Ramones. It's just bum, 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 and no deviation whatsoever. It is the most basic ass Zelda game. That's what you get when you stick with the formula.
Yeah, I love that you just had like an emo kid all pissed off at the world and was like, I'm going to fuck shit up. And this is the whole premise of the game. I love it. I love everything about it. That game took me so long to beat and to figure out because it was just insanely difficult. I think it's maybe one of the most difficult Zelda games because there's just so much going on, but I love it. I love it. I feel like I have to set up my N64 and replay it now. I don't know. I'll die on that hill. I think it's the best Zelda. I'm going to firmly state it. I think it's the best Zelda. Come at me.
Come at her, people. I won't. So, moving on to the 6th gen. The game that you love that everyone hates. What do you have?
Ready to Rumble for the Dreamcast.
I can already. I
feel like I don't have to say why.
I will side with you on this one.
We all know it's not great. The mechanics of the game, I feel like, don't really make sense. But it's just fun. That doesn't matter. Sometimes games are just fun. You know what I mean? I feel like this game is just fun. I have a lot of comments on Dreamcast games. When we're done, if we could chat about some Dreamcast games. I was like reminiscing here. Dreamcast was like a staple of my childhood.
You don't have to defend Ready to Rumble to me. It is, to me, it's kind of a spiritual successor to Punch-Out.
Yeah.
Little less pattern recognition, little more just wild, go for it kind of silliness. But I love it.
But it's so much fun. Like, I don't know. I love that game. I don't know. I love it. Really, I was really bad. I am atrocious at any game that involves fighting. Just any game, any console. I'm not good at it, but I love Ready to Rumble.
All right. Like I said, I will stand with you on that one. I don't think you'll stand with me on this one, but I will have to defend it. Playboy the Mansion.
I didn't play it, but I know this is.
So, no, it is
classic male response.
No, so off the top, yes, this movie has this game has boobs. I could not care less about that. If I want to see boobs, I have a wife. I get no enjoyment out of digital boobs anyway. I'm not that kind of that doesn't appeal to me. What the game does though, if once you get past the fact that you have to take pictures of digital naked women, there is actually a surprisingly deep business sim behind this game. You have to build up a magazine. You have to hire staff. You have to set the subscription rate. You have to set the advertising content. How much advertising do you want? Not enough, and you can't fund your magazine. Too much, and you make the readers upset, and they drop subscriptions. So you have to manage those aspects. You have to throw parties and wine and dine celebrities and get to know them so they'll be interview subjects in your magazine. You have to upgrade the mansion so that way people will be more entertained when they come over to the parties and then be more willing to participate in the magazine. So it's like half business sim, half the Sims. And it is surprisingly deep and challenging. And I maybe it's just me. I like business sims. Even as a kid, I loved business sims. So that part of me really enjoys the game. The boobs, whatever. Teenage boys are going to love that, and I can't excuse that. But I think if you can look past that, it's more fun than it sounds.
I'll let you have it. There's been a lot that has come out recently following good old Hef's passing. So I have like a pretty strong anti-Playboy sentiment now. That dude's a fucking psychopath. But I respect that that game was so in-depth. I actually didn't know it. So it's like a fancy, what the hell was that game? Leisure Suit Larry? Like a fancy version of that game.
Yeah. And for the record, all that stuff about Hef, yeah. Ew. Very ew. We won't go down that road, but just ew.
Yeah. And speaking of boobs, I picked 2 games for good. These games I think are phenomenal, but they were so controversial. And that is Vice City and San Andreas. Moms love to hate that game.
Yep.
I made a lot of kids mad when they would come in to buy a Grand Theft Auto game and like their moms had no fucking clue what this game's about. Like they're like, it's rated M. What does that mean? Oh, there's just this and this. And then the moms would come up and be like, straight up, what's in I'm like, you could solicit a sex worker and bang him in a car and then kill him and take all your money back, which is what I did. Do you want your 12-year-old kid doing that? I don't know. And then they'd be like, no, we're going to put this game back. And the kids would just like flick me off. But yeah, these games I feel like are amazing. Vice City is my favorite GTA, but I feel like people were just so taken aback with how graphic the game was. But that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's just real life.
Right.
Cocaine, Corvettes, clubs. Yeah, boobs.
My wife liked Grand Theft Auto 3, but only for one thing. There was an area near the starting area. There was like a city park. And she would camp out in the city park and she would turn on all the cheats. So she would just load out with every weapon on Earth. And then she would go on a killing spree and max out the wanted rating and just be blowing cop helicopters out of the sky and everything. That's all she would do. Never tried a mission.
Yeah.
Never tried advancing the story. Just wanted carnage.
My goal in Vice City was to always get Vercetti Mansion. Like all the time. I just wanted to be Scarface. I'd get whatever car that looked like was it a Lamborghini? I don't remember what it's called in the game. I think it starts with a C. And then I'd always play like that classic 80s station. I'd go to there was like this club on the corner that looked like the club in Scarface, and I'd just go in and like kill everybody. What a good game.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of people that don't play video games hate it because it was, it still is a controversial game, I guess, but I love that about it. It's great. It's fun.
All right. So my game, the popular game that I'm roasting, this is where we're really getting, I'm really going to start knocking, killing and barbecuing sacred cows here. Resident Evil 4. Again, I'm going to admit that this is a well-made game. It revitalized the series after it kind of got lost in the weeds. It is not a matter of, I think it's a bad game. It is more of a tone that I'm not fond of. It veers a little too closely to the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead, more action than horror aspect of it. And that just didn't really click with me. And Ashley, not you, Ashley, video game Ashley, the president's daughter, has to be the most annoying side character in video game history. Taking a horror game, and 1, turning it into mostly an action game, but 2, making the whole fucking thing an escort mission. I got tired of doing it. I got tired of protecting her, and I didn't even finish the game. It just annoyed me.
I've played every Resident Evil game except for 7, and I think there's one more after 7, and I like them, but I've never been like a huge fan of the games. So I'm not going to argue, honestly. I didn't love, was it 5 or 6? Whichever one has Shiva as a character in it. I didn't love that one. Is that her name? 6?
6 was the one where they brought together all the characters from before.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Resident Evil games, but I don't love them. I appreciate them for what they are, but I don't love them. So I'm not going to argue. Unpopular opinion, but
no, but I'm sure the pitchforks will be wielded for me. So as if neither one of us have endeared ourselves, over the course of this. So 7th gen,
I'm going to have a lot more opinions on the more recent generations. And yeah, so
here we go. PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii. What bad game are you defending?
A Deadly Premonition for the Xbox 360.
I've heard of it. I would like to play it. Go ahead.
It's an open world survivor that is loosely based on Twin Peaks, and Twin Peaks is my favorite television show of all time. I have a Twin Peaks tattoo. So I'm biased, and this is a biased opinion, but it follows FBI agent Francis York Morgan as he investigates a murder of a woman in Greenville, Washington. The controls are terrible. The graphics are bad. The pacing is awkward, but the story is interesting because Twin Peaks, and the ambiance is good. Like, you have like these, I don't even know what they are, zombie creatures. They just like bend backwards and they just like shake and look at you. It's weird. It's just weird. It's not great, but I love it. I don't care what anybody says. It's also insanely hard to find because I'm pretty sure it was made by like an indie game company in Montreal. I had to use my GameStop connections to find it. I could only find like 3 in 3 different stores, and I had to have it like shipped to my store to buy it. So that makes it cool too, because it's like, how many people have played that game? That alone gives a cool factor. I don't care.
Everything you've just said is the reason why I want to play it, because I haven't watched the reboot of Twin Peaks, or not the revival or whatever, but I did watch the original when it was on, and I loved it. And the idea of a Twin Peaks feeling game just sounds delightful. Terrible, but delightful.
It's great. The cover art is so bad too, but like, I love the game. I love it. I don't care.
That's what we're here for this one. So the game I'll be defending, Metroid Other M on the Wii. I like the gameplay. I like the fact that it is a 2.5 hybrid with occasional first person for the boss fights. I like the fact that it dares to innovate. Yes, the relationship between Samus and Adam Marcus is odd, and why does she depower herself out of deference to him? I'm not entirely sure. The game doesn't quite explain it very well, but I will admit, but I like the fact that it uses that as a reason to strip away her powers at the beginning, rather than the typical, she gets into a fight in the prologue and has them all knocked out and then has to go find them again. They do that in every fucking Metroid game, and it's tiring. So at least they found a new way to do it. And I like the fact that they give Samus a personality in this. I know it's controversial. She's always talking about the baby, but it builds on the ending of Super Metroid, where that baby Metroid tries to attach to her and tries to bond with her as its mother. And that's a life path that Samus didn't get to go down. So I feel like the game is trying to explore that a little. Yes, it handles it very klutzy. It's not told very well, but I appreciate the fact that it's trying to tell a story. And I don't know. I like the game. I don't think it's nearly as bad as people think it is.
I don't play Wii games. I had a Wii and I never played it. So you're not going to have an argument with me either way, because what a weird concept for a console, honestly.
It had a surprising amount of hidden gems in it. The problem was they were buried. Like, there was, if there was a dozen really, really great games, they were buried underneath 2,000 party game clones that, why do I need a 7th version of darts? Anyway, let's go to the other side. The popular game we're roasting. What do you got?
My favorite video game series of all time. Well, so this game is in the series. I don't really know if I would include this game in that, but my favorite game in the series is the original Mass Effect. I love me some motion blur. I love me some 12-hour long cutscenes. I love Garrus. I love everything. I love the original Mass Effect. I take a lot of issues with Mass Effect 3. When the first thing I do is turn on the game and it asks me what kind of experience I have, and there's an option to have like minimal cutscenes and interactions, I'm like, cool, so you're trying to appeal to the COD bros. This isn't the premise of Mass Effect. Same thing. Microsoft, Mass Effect. Anyway, that's not the premise of the game. This game isn't for them. You don't need to ruin the gameplay experience. Yeah, granted, I can select whatever I want. I think there were 3 different options, like regular amount of cutscenes, medium, none. Make it just like a shooter. Why is that even an option? That's not Mass Effect. It just felt so weird. I loved it and I cried when certain characters died like a baby, but it just felt like they were trying to take a great game and turn it into something more mainstream. And I'm not going to lie, I was really fucking offended by that. I was infuriated by that. So, and then they made Andromeda, and that's not on my list. I won't even acknowledge that. But then they made Andromeda. So it just felt like a double gut punch to every Mass Effect fan ever. But yeah, I was really, it sounds dumb. Maybe this is dumb, but I was so mad that wasn't even an option. That's not what Mass Effect is. It's cutscene heavy. Deal with it. If you don't want to deal with it, then play Call of Duty.
Fair.
Sorry.
No, it's perfectly fair. I'm surprised that the ending controversy wasn't part of your criticism.
Yeah, I didn't like the multitude of options for the endings either, because I'm one of those weirdos where I have to have like multiple different saves so I can experience all the different endings. But whatever. Again, it just felt like the entire game was manufactured to feel like something more mainstream and not really true to Mass Effect. And I love 2 as well, obviously. I know 2, I think, is more popular for people than 1. I love both, but 3 just felt, I don't know. It was like as disappointing to me as BioShock 2 was. So that if that doesn't voice how strongly I feel about being disappointed by a series that I love, then I don't know what else will.
All right. Fair enough. My pick will be The Last of Us. I love Naughty Dog as a developer. The Jack and Daxter series is wonderful. I love the Uncharted series. I've played every one of them, beaten them all, and I wish, please, someone hear me, continue the Uncharted series with Chloe Fraser. That would be amazing, because she's so much fun.
Also, Crash Bandicoot, please give that an honorable mention.
Crash Bandicoot, absolutely. They make great games. And I'm not saying that Last of Us isn't a well-made game. It is a beautiful game. And that prologue before, as shit is starting to hit the fan.
Sobbed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I sobbed.
Yeah. That tore my heart out. I'm a dad. I mean, you don't have to be a father or mother to have that effect on you. But being a parent, I immediately put myself in that position and was going, oh my God, if that happened, oh my God, that just heart dead. I think that it's a very well told story. I just think it's a very boring game.
What? What do you mean? Like, okay. Legitimately, what?
I don't like the scarcity of resources. I don't care for the sneaking around. I don't care for the very slow pace of the game. Like I said, I understand that it's a different kind of game. It's not meant to be the more action-packed, rollicking, white-knuckle of Uncharted or the more platform-heavy Jack and Daxter or Crash. I get that. But what it is just too slow for me. It just doesn't hook me. I got bored by it. I'm like, the pacing just didn't work for me. I don't know how.
I don't know that I've ever heard somebody describe that game as slow. Truthfully, I mean, you have like the clickers. You cannot. Oh, if you alert them, RIP. Nice knowing you. So you have to. I mean, they're just the game inherently by its very nature, by things that you're trying to avoid. Like if this game came to fruition, and you had cordyceps, which some idiot on TikTok was growing them out of his own skin. So we may not be too far. Global warming has made fungi thrive.
Awesome. Great.
Just saying, I work in infection prevention, and that's why we're seeing a lot more fungal infections. So who knows? Maybe we'll get it. I'm not going to lie. I read all of the Max Brooks books. So I'm one of those weirdos that was like, yeah, I think I could survive a zombie apocalypse. But yeah, I mean, just inherently by what you're trying to avoid, like if this happened in real life, you'd have to pace certain experiences more slowly. So I don't know that I find that boring. But I will say that I do struggle with having to sneak around a lot. Like, a game series that I love, but I'm really bad at is Hitman, because I alert everybody accidentally to where I'm at and what's going on, like within seconds. So I'm not good at that kind of dynamic, but I don't know. I didn't really struggle with that with The Last of Us, and I didn't think the gameplay was slow. But games like that also give me anxiety, which I think are more fun because I'm like, oh God, sneaking around.
I admit I'm on an island with it. I know that it's a weird thing to nitpick about it. And I also admit there's hypocrisy going on my end, because as much as the slow, sneaky pace of Last of Us bothered me, I love the slow sneaking in Metal Gear Solid. So I can't,
so good.
I can't even explain necessarily to a satisfactory degree why The Last of Us didn't click with me. No pun intended. Yeah, I know. Sorry, dad jokes. It just didn't. And I wish it did. Because it is a beautiful looking game. It just doesn't. It just leaves me, the gameplay itself just leaves me bored.
I think that a video game that is truly revolutionary, and I won't use that word dramatically, and I think that game was and still is revolutionary. Look at the show that it created. I feel like I'll always have space for in my heart. I don't care if that sounds fucking corny. I'm a corny gamer. And that game invoked so much emotion out of me, like Mass Effect, which never really, I think those might be the only two games where I actually like cried. It was like a single tear or two, but I'm not gonna lie, I sobbed in Last of Us, I'll be honest. But I don't know, I feel like games that can invoke that kind of emotion out of its players, I feel like is just inherently a good game, in my opinion.
Like I said, I will not attack the design of it. It is immaculately designed. Naughty Dog does not make, I won't say it does not make a bad game, but since Crash Bandicoot, I don't know that they've made a bad or a heavily flawed game. And the story is wonderful. I just can't get hooked by the gameplay. I just can't. To your point,
that's fair.
To your point about the crying, though, 3 games have made me cry. The opening of Last of Us, God of War 2018, the end where Kratos and his son are at the mountaintop and they're spreading Kratos' wife's ashes, and the ending of Metal Gear Solid 3.
Not Mass Effect 3?
I've never finished Mass Effect.
When you say Mass Effect, I need you to, like, you've never finished.
One.
What?
I've never finished the first one. I have restarted it on 3 different occasions. It's in the back.
I don't recommend things lightly. You need to move that to like number 1 of your backlog. I'm serious. Oh my God. Are you?
You're like, what fucking podcast did I sign on for?
I need you to make time for that game. And it is very time consuming. And if you're like me and I have to do every side mission, every main mission. In fact, I will do all my side missions before I start main missioning. You have to play it.
That's one of the things that has kind of actually kept me away from it, is that the large amount of side missions. As I've grown older, I've grown more impatient, and I just want to get to the story, and I just want to play the story. And so 10 years ago, 15 years ago, yeah, I will guzzle every side mission that you find that is out there. Fallout 3, I sunk so many hours exploring every crevice of that map. Fallout 4, storyline. Because I just couldn't be arsed to go through every side mission. I don't want to.
Fallout 4. I have 4 game series that are my favorite game series of all time. in Mass Effect is number 1, and then the rest are in no particular order. They're all tied for 2. Borderlands, BioShock, and Fallout. Fallout 4, I was just talking. So I have, before I get down this Fallout rabbit hole, I have 2 questions for you going back to Naughty Dog. Number 1, favorite Crash Bandicoot game. Mine is Warped easily. I know that's a weird, my favorite one.
It's been so long since I played a Crash Bandicoot game. Off the top of my head, probably 2.
Respect. And then second question, did you watch The Last of Us?
I have not. No.
Oh my, do you have HBO?
Yes. Okay, so my wife and I typically watch one heavy show at a time, and we watch it from front to back. We have been, and it has taken forever. It has taken probably a year for us to get through Better Call Saul, and we are on the last episode. So we're coming up to the point of we need a new show. So Last of Us is tickling back there. That's one of the possibilities. So it could be watched. We just haven't gotten to it yet because we're very slow with TV shows.
Please watch it next. So Nick Offerman, I don't know if you know who he is. He plays Ron Swanson. He played Bill in The Last of Us, and there's one episode about him and his romantic relationship, and I cried like a fucking baby. It was so beautiful. It's so good. It is, please watch. Just trust me. You have to watch it. It is so well done. If you think that the beginning of the video game invoked emotions, watch the show. It is. So I was going to ask you if you've watched the Fallout series, but you're going to say no.
No, I don't have Amazon Prime.
It is worth it to just get it for a month and then watch. I watched, first of all, Kyle MacLachlan is in it he's Agent Dale Cooper from Twin Peaks, and he's the overseer. So let's come on.
Ooh,
and also,
it is an overseer.
Yeah. And is it Walt or Walter? Walter Goggins is in it too, who's spectacular. He plays Miss Venus in Sons of Anarchy. I love him. He plays did you play the Fallout games?
The last
you just said this and I forgot.
3, New Vegas, and 4. I've played those 3.
Yeah, he plays like the ghoul from, is it New Vegas? Fallout 4? I don't fucking remember.
It's one of them.
Yeah. But they have like the dog companion in the game that you can get in Fallout 4. Like it's really, really good. It doesn't follow any of the video games. It's like pretty unique, but the Brotherhood is in it. The Brotherhood of Steel. It's really good. It's just, I watched it in like 2 days and I'm going to rewatch it. It's so good. But I love it because it gives a background on Vault Tech, and I'm not going to spoiler alert it, so don't worry, but it gives a background on Vault Tech and how these bombs went off and life on Earth after and before. And there's a lot of like messed up stuff that goes on that causes all of this stuff to happen without any spoiler. I'm telling you, there's some messed up stuff going on in the vaults, which we already knew playing the games, but it gives like a lot more backstory. And also, I don't know, the main character, her name is Lucy, whatever actress plays her is fantastic. I'm rambling. You have to watch it. So you guys can add those 2 games or 2 shows to your list. Trust me, you won't regret it. It is just, I'm rambling.
Maybe I'll wedge Fallout in for myself. Find a way to watch it because I've been trying to watch classic Doctor Who. That gets slow at times. I love Doctor Who. It is my all-time favorite show. But classic Doctor Who can get slow. So I have to like watch it for a couple weeks and then not, and kind of come back and forth. So maybe in between, maybe I'll wedge in Fallout. Watch that on lunch.
I love David Tennant. What a good show.
Me too. Is he one of my kids' favorite? I don't remember. No.
He's my favorite Doctor.
He's up there for me. He's like number 2. Tom Baker. It's my childhood Doctor.
It's a good choice.
All right. Well, we went down a rabbit hole. And we've got 1 generation to go, the 8th generation.
Speaking of Fallout, the bad game that I picked is Fallout 76. It was really bad when it launched. It was really bad when it launched.
Yes, it was.
Like, actually,
Yeah.
it's great now. I actively play it, but it was atrocious when it launched. And how dare they? Bugs. There was like no content. They literally gave people their money back. That's how bad the game was. I feel like that's all I need to say about it. I mean, it's great now. Like, I love it. Good job. But maybe don't release a game until it's ready to be released.
Why would they ever do that? It's just so much. It's so much easier to release it and then fix it.
The worst game I've ever played at launch. Like, actually, it was, well, what the hell was that game that just came out? I'm not going to be able to think of it.
Cyberpunk?
Cyberpunk. Thank you. Also atrocious at launch, but still not as bad as Fallout 76 at launch. That was, I think, the worst launch of a game in history. Although there was this other game that I was just reading about that came out, I think, the end of last year, and then they shut it down after like 2 or 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So maybe that one was worse. I didn't play it.
The Day After, I think it was called. The Day After.
Yeah, something like that. They shut down the multiplayer servers like 2 months into the game.
Oh, and they pulled the game off of Steam, and the dev shut down, and they tried to blame the fans for it. They're like, you just didn't understand. We never promised a completely different game, and the heads of the developers were saying that, and all the actual boots on the ground developers were going, no, false promises were made. You can go to the press conferences, you can go to the E3 conferences, you can go to the video. You made promises, and then we couldn't do it. You told us not to do it. That game was a handful.
So bad. Yeah. So it's great now, but at launch, I have to acknowledge, even as a Fallout fan, that it was. And I think we need to start holding developers more accountable, because I mentioned that I wanted to talk about really quickly, like, current gens when we're done. And that's something I'll get into when we jump to that. But I feel like developers are getting a lot more ballsy with just releasing games that aren't ready, or I'll save it for the next gen. But I feel like we need to hold them accountable, because without gamers and people that are buying their product, they have nothing. So maybe stop releasing things that are not complete or not polished because you want to make a buck. It's not right. I'm sorry.
I believe
Sorry.
it was Shigeru Miyamoto, I believe, who said a delayed game can eventually be good, but a rushed game is bad forever.
Yeah, it's like the EA, the whole like Star Wars games now with the whole EA model, spend $59.99 or whatever games are now. I think they raised the price now plus tax. And then you have to spend all of this money to buy expansions when really we're secretly releasing a game that is like a quarter of a game, and you have to spend more money to fuck that. No. In this economy, release a legit game. I'm getting fired up. I'll let you go before I get mad.
That's all right. So the game I will be defending that I think gets way too much hate is Batman Arkham Knight. I mean, the Batman Arkham series is a great series. I think Arkham Knight, I mean, a lot of the criticism of Arkham Knight comes down to the Batmobile. I like the Bat.
Wait. Real quick, sorry. Are you saying this is a good game that people say is bad, or a bad game that you think is good?
A game that people say is bad that I think is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoy the game. I enjoy the Batmobile sections. I freely admit it's probably used a little bit too much. Having the final boss fight be not only a Batmobile versus tank fight, but also against Deathstroke is a choice. I don't know that it is the sanest choice. I don't know that it makes any sense, but I don't think that takes away from the fun of the game. I think that it provides some differences rather than just flying around from rooftop to rooftop and getting in the same fights. You have another way of playing the game. You have another way of getting around the city of Arkham. I like it. Also, I will freely admit the plot twist with the Arkham Knight. We all guessed who the identity of the Arkham Knight was. It was stupid of WB Games to lie about it and go, no, that's totally not it. It's totally not Jason Todd. And then have it be Jason Todd. I don't know what they were thinking with that. But it's still a damn good game. It is still, you play that game, you play the combat, the detective mission, you take away the Batmobile section even, And it is just as good, and it is built on just as solid a foundation as Arkham City. And they just added in a Batmobile. I don't get why that is such a hot point of contention.
I loved all of the Batman games. I don't remember if Arkham Asylum or Arkham City was my favorite. Whichever one. So this was actually a terrible experience for me. So I was always one of those people that would pre-order like the highest tier. And I pre-ordered, I think it was Arkham Asylum. Maybe it was Arkham City. You might know. Where I was told I was going to get like a metal Batarang.
I did.
It was like $200.
Oh, wow.
I'll Google it. And then it ended up being a plastic mounted Batarang, so I couldn't even throw it at people. All I wanted was a Batarang I could throw. I obviously wasn't going to throw it at people, but I wanted a Batarang. I was equally disappointed when I pre-ordered the top tier for Modern Warfare 2, where I was told I was going to get night vision goggles, and they were not really night vision goggles. Equally as disappointing, but I loved the game nonetheless.
Reminds me of Fallout 76 and the bag.
I don't pre-order the top tier anymore unless it's like I did that with Borderlands 3 and I did it with Tiny Tina just because I got all of the DLC and it's cheaper than buying $20 worth of 5 or 6 DLCs. That's all I'll do now is if it's cheaper to buy like I don't know if they even call it Gotti anymore, Game of the Year. I don't know what they call it now. The all-inclusive edition, whatever. But I don't pre-order stuff to get stuff anymore because it's just cheap and disappointing every time. But yeah, that Batman game disappointed me. Well, what I got with my pre-order, not the game itself.
Huh.
I got to Google it really fast. It was so bad.
Yeah, I don't pre-order. I'll do the same thing. You know, if there's a season pass that encapsulates the DLC at a discounted rate, sure. But other than that, no, I'm not spending the money on that. But yeah.
It was Arkham Asylum, which is what I thought. It was so disappointing. It was like, yeah, you're going to get like a legit, it was like a little plastic thing mounted. I ended up throwing it away. I was like, this is offensive. I want a Batarang.
Okay.
Did not get a Batarang.
Complete tangent very quickly. My oldest boys, twins, just had their 18th birthday a couple weeks ago. And we went, for their birthday party, we went axe throwing. And the axe throwing place has Batarangs.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God. This is
They're
so cool. I'm
they're
sorry.
about as long as like an iPhone, maybe a little bit longer. And they more look like, they're more angular. They're more reminiscent of the Batarangs from Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. But still, yeah, you could throw Batarangs instead of axes if you want. Among other things. They've also got sharpened metal playing cards, so you can pretend to be Gambit from the X-Men.
I would lose it. That's so cool.
We did not. They were an upcharge. We did not. We'd already spent more than enough. We weren't paying more because it's per person and it was like $10 per person, and there was like 15 of us there, so we weren't dropping the extra 150 for Batarangs. But sometime I want to go back and do that just so that way for one moment in my life I could throw it and go, I'm Batman.
That's really cool. Oh, I'm not gonna lie. All right, so before we finish, I want to talk about my gripe with current games.
Well, we haven't done the other side. We haven't done the popular game that we don't like.
Yeah, you're right. I'm jumping ahead. Sorry.
That's right. So
this might be controversial.
But like anything else we haven't said, isn't.
This might be my most controversial one, and I say that because for some reason, at least I'm seeing on TikTok, like when I'm scrolling through, my algorithm obviously has a lot of gaming related videos. I see a lot of people, apparently you can stream on TikTok, and which is cool. I mean, it's another revenue stream. You probably make more money than you do on Twitch, but I am seeing an uptick in popularity with Red Dead Redemption 2, and that's the game I picked for good games that I think aren't that great. I love Red Dead Redemption 2, but I don't think it's as amazing as everybody says it is.
That is bold. I know so many people who live and die by that game.
I think it's a great game, but like Undead Nightmare, first of all, can we just talk about that DLC and how trash it is for a second? Or are we just going to pretend like that wasn't a thing? because it was so bad. Like, actually. But yeah, I mean, the world is detailed. The game looks beautiful. The game is beautiful. It's well done. There's deep storytelling, but it's really slow paced. And before you have the ability to fast travel, can we talk about how long it takes to get from one point to another point?
Oh.
Worse than Fallout before you can fast travel.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend, I have ADHD. I don't want to spend like an hour walking or riding a horse to my next point of interest. It's a lot. And I think that it's like, I don't know, that alone infuriated me. And I don't know. I just feel like that takes away from the experience. I also feel like the combat in the game is kind of wonky sometimes too. I don't know. I think it's a great game, but I don't think that it's like one of the greatest games of all time like people think it is. It's not. It's literally a Rockstar game. I'm going to say it. All Rockstar games are the same. It is literally Yeehaw Grand Theft Auto.
I'm sorry.
My
nickname for it is Grand Theft Pony.
It's literally Yeehaw Grand Theft Auto. Like, let's be serious. They're not reinventing the wheel here. And if I'm going to pick between Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto, I'm going to pick Grand Theft Auto every time because I can rip somebody out of a car and kill them and then drive to my next mission instead of riding a horse and taking 20 minutes to get to some bank I have to rob in the next town over where everybody's dying of cholera. Honestly.
There's a scene early on, and I say early on, in a game that's like 100 hours long, but it's after you get out of the first house or whatever, and you're riding a covered wagon to this like mountaintop encampment. Jesus fucking Christ, that takes so goddamn long. Sorry to swear so much, but oh my God, that covered wagon ride is like 10 minutes long.
Exactly. And that is an issue.
Like,
well, we got to be real.
If I wanted to ride in a covered wagon for 10 minutes, we've got like one of those old timey villages here in Detroit that I can go do. I don't want to sit there on my couch and watch that. Slightly nudge the controller to the left. Avoid this possum. No.
I used to take my Xbox controller and flip it upside down on my coffee table with the joystick propped up in a straight line. And I used to just leave and do other stuff and hope that nothing happened along the way. I would do that with Fallout too. And again, I think it's a good game for sure, but I just think we have to be more realistic. Like, this is not one of the greatest games of all time. And it's not revolutionary.
No, it's taking...
When you compare other... But it is a good game.
It's taking a formula that Rockstar does and does well, but it is a formula with an Old West skin.
Speaking of Rockstar really quick, I'm getting off topic, but what was that stupid game that Rockstar made where everybody had mitten hands? Their hands were stuck together and it was like a LA Noire? That stupid game they made where you're a detective. Remember everybody had the Rockstar mitten hands? I'm just like thinking of all these games that I played that I buried deep in the back of my mind because they were not good.
I was not a fan of LA Noire either. Like,
me either.
Oh yeah,
but the mitten hands.
Drive to a place. Can't drive anywhere else. Ask a question. Guess if they're lying.
You're lying. Press A.
I don't want to play a guessing game. If I want to do that, I've got young kids. I don't need.
I wasn't good at that. They'd be lying, and I'd think they're telling it. Just like, look at their face to determine. I'm like, I'm not a fucking detective.
Right?
Can you just memories?
All right, so my game for the 8th generation, the popular game that I don't click with, and like you with Red Dead Redemption, I admit that this is it's a well-designed game. It's not that it's a bad game, it's that the game elements of the game just didn't click with me. Same with Last of Us, and that's Horizon Zero Dawn. I wanna love this game so badly because robot dinosaurs. Robot dinosaurs. You're hunting robot dinosaurs. Like, that's so amazing. And yet, I don't feel like the gameplay rewards exploration and experimentation. I feel like once you get the equipment and the strategy you need to defeat a dinosaur in a certain way, there's no benefit to trying something else. And that got really boring for me. It was like, okay, here's the Stegosaurus or here's the Raptor. Use the same strategy that you've done with the other 7 Raptors. the world was very generic to me. The open world, it was beautifully made, but I didn't really feel a lot of character to it. And speaking of something with no character, Aloy. Holy shit, is she a blank slate? Which I know sometimes that's the whole intention, is that a character is a blank slate, so that way the player can imprint upon them and feel like they're part of it. But I think that works when the player character is a created character. When it is a narratively specific character, they should have a little more than just blank. And Aloy just came up so dull and boring to me. Like, she didn't react to anything in a way. She just kind of, her default position was, oh, okay. Everything she did was, oh, okay. Something about the game, just same thing with Last of Us. Well made, but inherently boring for me.
I mean, I agree with this one, but to compare the two is like actually insane. They're on two different levels. But yeah, I'd rather just play Turok if we're going to play a dinosaur game, kind of.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
And like I said, I wish I could love it more, because the concept, I wrote down notes, and in all capitals, the first thing I wrote was, how do you fuck up robot dinosaurs?
Robot dinosaurs doesn't sound appealing to me. Robots and then like also dinosaurs like in two separate planes sounds cool, but like robot dinosaurs, I don't know. That's not speaking to me.
Maybe it's the 8-year-old boy in me. Just the idea of dinosaurs, but Terminator dinosaurs. Maybe it's just scratching a little boy in me, but even still, like, how do you miss that? That seems like a surefire. The whole package seems surefire can't miss, and it just,
I don't know how you don't make that cheesy. To be honest, I don't know how you make a game with robot dinosaurs and make it good. I challenge a developer out there to do that.
That I never thought of it. That's probably what they should have done, was lean into the cheese, not make it so self-serious. Make it OTT.
Make it campy.
Yeah. Oh, well. All right. So, I don't have anything for current gen, because I haven't played enough of current gen. I've only had my PlayStation 5 for about a year. And I think I've played about 4 games on it. So I just don't have the breadth to be able to speak to it, but you do. So
so my complaint applies to current gen, I'm going to talk like PC. And one game in particular comes to mind that's been in alpha for 10 years. So I guess we could apply it to the previous gen. But I have been on a weird tangent lately with video games where all I want to play are survival games. So I'm playing a lot of The Forest, Sons of the Forest, 7 Days to Die, Icarus, Project Zomboid. I take real issue, 7 Days to Die developers, the fun pimps, I'm talking to you specifically, of a game being an alpha for fucking 10 years. And they're taking a game where the alpha would be really good. And we're like, okay, we love everything about this. We love the leveling system. We love the weapons. We love this and that. And then they're like, oh, okay, we hear you. We're going to completely change the way that leveling exists. And now you're not going to be able to get water in the wild. You're going to have to build dew collectors. So they keep taking, the fun pimps specifically keep taking things that we like and going into the subreddits and reading it and then purposely changing them in the net. This last alpha, I think it's 22, my least favorite alpha. And same thing with Sons of the Forest. Okay, the game's going to release this time. And then they're like, just kidding, it's going to come out 2 months later, 3 months later. Then it comes out. Okay, the game's in alpha. A year later, almost, the game is ready for full release. Just release the full game, please. And they're doing it so much with survival games lately, like Icarus. Still not a complete game. Can we just complete games?
You know what? You know what game came to mind as you were saying perpetually in alpha? Star Citizen.
Ugh.
That game, I'm convinced, will never get to beta. Ever. Let alone go gold.
Why would it?
Because, no.
Because people are buying it and people are playing it and they're like, ha 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 ha.
They've made, what, $454 million or something off of it?
I don't like where gaming is going with this because I'm noticing it's becoming a more common trend where developers are like, okay, we can release an unpolished, unfinished, not complete game after telling people that it's going to be released as a full release game, and then it's not. And then people are just going to keep buying it and then playing it. And then now, so I think specifically with 7 Days to Die, they're saying that version 1 of the game is going to be out over the summer. And now we have to buy it all over again, which is fine. Listen, I have like 2,000 hours in the game on PC and I paid $20. Actually, no, I think I got it on a Steam sale. Fine. But like, come on. And we'll like post our bases or something, or a way that we found to like, I'm one of those weirdos where, so the premise of 7 Days to Die, if you've never played it, is it's a zombie survival game. And every 7th day, although you could customize the settings, there is a blood moon, and then you just have wave after wave of zombies that just kind of hit you. I play unconventionally. Most people have a separate horde base for horde night, and then they have a separate base where they keep everything. I'm a weirdo. I have everything in one because I like to try to see that I can protect my base all the time, and I have like a very specific formula. They will constantly see that we find ways to exploit it, and then they'll patch it, and then they'll make it. So like the zombies are just smart. They know automatically where to go and where to patch. If this was real life, zombies are dumb. They don't know where they're going. Right. But they just keep making the game not fun for us. And we're like, hey, what about raiders? And they're like, okay, we hear that you want raiders. How about if you cannot collect water and you have to build like 7 dew collectors? It's just, can we just stop doing that?
You know what game I'm worried about in that vein? I can't remember the name of it, which I probably shouldn't bring it up, but it is the follow-up game from Hello Games. It's the follow-up to No Man's Sky. It is more, it takes No Man's Sky, and rather than being a galaxy exploring game, you explore one planet, but it's like one entire planet. So they've really mapped out the geography of this, so that it is like realistically planet sized. You can't just walk across lands in 20 minutes. You walk 20 minutes, you're going to walk how far a human being walks in 20 minutes. So but it's still got that same sense of exploration and same sense of crafting and building and such. That's the intent of the game. What I'm worried about is they've announced it so far ahead. And not that Hello Games hasn't learned their lesson from what happened with No Man's Sky. They have more than adequately exonerated themselves from the clusterfuck that was the release of that game. But I'm nervous it'll happen again. I'm nervous that they'll be like, well, we've been working on this game for 5 years. We got to get it out to get some money to turn the lights on. And then the cycle will begin anew. And that can't happen. The industry has fallen into a pattern of it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Let's release it broken, fix it later. Hey, we fixed it for you. Come back next time. No.
Yeah.
Do it right now.
Yeah.
Do it right the first time. Like, yes, some bugs are going to get through. There's always a chance of some bugs getting through. But if you knowingly release a game like Cyberpunk, like Fallout 76, in conditions that are broken to borderline unfinished, no. Just no. Stop.
Yeah. And I know for a fact I play games that are released by indie developers more than mainstream developers now, just because, I don't know, I feel like my gaming tastes have changed. And again, I love games, really unforgiving survival games where it's just a grind and I want to die. Like, I just love that right now for whatever reason. And I'm all about supporting indie developers. And I know that they don't have a lot of money, yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, I just feel like if we are complacent as gamers, this is just going to be more commonplace. And there's nothing wrong with releasing a game unfinished. Let's say you announce a game like a year or 2 years out. And then as time gets closer, like, listen, this game might not be finished. Do you want us to release it in early access with a promise to be full release by whatever date? But they don't do that. They say that it's going to be out, and then like 2 weeks before the release date, they're like, we're pushing it back 2 months. And then like, okay, it's coming out 2 months later, but it's actually going to be early act. Like that shit, come on. Come on. No. I'm spending my hard-earned dollars on this game in this economy. Do better.
Exactly. 100% agree.
And that's my rant for current games. Although 7 Days to Die, this has been going on for 10 years. And we're just like, please, the fun pimps. We know you had a hard time with Telltale Games screwing you over, but please, for the love of God.
Get to 1.0. That's all we're asking.
We're getting mad. Well, apparently we're going to get that, but I don't have high hopes. I'm not going to lie. I don't have high hopes for the full release. This isn't even going to be a full release, I bet.
Probably not. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this episode. Your first episode. Are you sticking around? Not going to quit?
No, I'm done. I'm done after your choices.
Another co-host search. No, this has been a wonderful episode. I've had a lot of fun, and I look forward to the next episode. Before we get to where can you find us and all that, tradition on this episode is to present a couple of choices for the next episode. I figure we'll do that back and forth. Next time around, you can pick a couple of ideas and ambush me with them, and I'll pick. But for this time, I've got 2 topics in mind for the next episode. You pick which one you'd like to do. On the one hand, we've got the weirdest gaming peripherals. On the other hand, the best game that is stranded to a single console. As in, no remasters, no re-releases, no nothing. The only way to play it is on original hardware, and only the one.
So am I giving an idea too, or I'm just picking
You're
one?
You're picking one. And then next episode, you'll do this. You'll do it to me.
All right, I picked the latter.
The latter. All right. Best game stranded to a single console. That one's going to be fun. Tricky, though. That one's going to be tricky.
I thought that one would be less tricky than the first one.
The weirder peripherals one, I think the tricky part is not picking the obvious peripherals like, oh, look, we picked the U-Force or the Sega Menacer or something. You know, those are kind of too easy to do. So, all right. So that will be the next episode. Ashley, where can people find you? Where can people find your other podcast?
Yeah. So I am on all social media. So I have another podcast. It's a true crime podcast, but it's a cool true crime podcast. It's just me, but I also work a lot with people directly in the true crime community. So I'll have like retired special agents on, or I'll work directly with the victims and their families. And that is F That Pod everywhere except for Instagram, because there is an old podcast that doesn't exist anymore that has that handle, and Instagram won't delete it, even though they haven't been active in like 4 years, Instagram. So on Instagram, it's F_that_pod. But yeah, you can find me there on all social media.
All right. And the link tree is in the description, where you can find links to my socials, which I have very, very few. I'm on Blue Sky. And if you want to read my long rambling movie reviews, you can do that on Letterboxd. I review every movie that I see. I don't know why. I'm not getting paid for it. It's just fun. So that'll be it. Until next episode, which will be in 2 weeks. Ashley, it has been a pleasure. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
All right, everyone. Until next time.